Welcome to
SEO.com.
Conspiracy. Wow,
Hello, Laurent.
Et bonjour, Monsieur Dixon.
Et vous bien?
Ah, je vais très bien. Et vous?
Ah, oui, très bien, merci.
Yeah.
And what are we going to talk about today? I don't think we told anybody last time round.
Yes, last time we didn't know, but we have a very good topic about algomyth.
Algo myths. Yes, yeah. There's a lot of those, aren't there? There are things that people say are used in Google's algorithms, and there's no evidence to back that up at all. And sometimes there's evidence the other way. So one of them, of course, is TF-IDF.
Yes.
It's which I had a problem with TF-IDF when it came out because we were using TF for trust flow at Majestic. So that really messed me up because TF stands for something else in that one. So what does TF-IDF stand for?
Well, the technical term I don't remember the acronym, but it's basically the rare.
Density.
No, it's the rare words and the common ones. So about a topic, you have rare words that are relevant but not used a lot, and those words that are used a lot. It does kind of make sense, except it's old. It's really old.
Yeah, and I don't think there's not much evidence that it's being used per se. It may have been used in the past, and whether it was used or not, it was a clever idea for finding different angles on ideas, and I kind of like that as a theory. I know Wright used to use it. I don't know if they still do use it, but they use that quite a lot in their tools and things. But I think it's kind of outmoded now because I think that synonyms and entities are the new approach. So
Exactly.
They can say, right, it's about this idea, and this idea can be expressed in different ways, which includes common explanations of and rarely used ideas. But I don't think it's TF-IDF that's at the heart of the whole thing. I think the heart of the whole thing is an entity based or topic based, or I think about it as an encyclopedia based approach to concepts.
Exactly.
And then they see, right, these use, and then you can use that to say that there's these ideas are closely associated in this context. You don't then need to use TF-IDF to try and work out suddenly a different word. So I think it's unlikely that it's a major part of Google's world right now. I don't know what you think.
Most definitely, especially since the move from strings to things, and when name entities and all that stuff came around, that because there's no evidence that they really use it. If they did, it was in the past, and it's old school. So if it's helpful to you,
that's our opinion anyway. That's our opinion.
Exactly.
We think that TF-IDF is old school, and I'm happy to be proved wrong if required. I'm hoping that I thought you might have got cut off there for a second. So
usually you disappear. I don't know why I disappear. What's wrong with my camera here?
You've got so much tech in that studio of yours. So what other algorithm are we going for? So LSI. What about LSI? How on earth did LSI become part of the SEO conspiracy theory?
Well, I just told you the story before.
Yeah,
I forgot the exact date. Yeah, it was.
This is because we prepare in advance, folks. We prepare in advance. We have some kind of idea of what we're doing,
Yes. And while I talk to you, I'm trying to fix my camera. I don't know what.
All right. Okay.
But anyway, we're looking at you, and I'll explain the story. I think it was 2002 when Google bought a company called Applied Semantics, which was doing what's called latent semantic analysis and latent semantic indexing. But like sometimes SEOs don't read the end of the sentence when it says, it was LSI for advertising.
Never. What, we just read the headline, SEO is dead, and then there's a headline, and that's it. Okay.
You just read what you want to read, what you understand, what you want to understand.
Yeah. In AdSense, not in the core algorithms.
Exactly. That's it.
So how? So since 2000 was it 2002? So
I
18
think so.
years, SEOs have been going around saying, "Ah, yes, latent semantic indexing. We got to get on top of that."
I heard it
And
yesterday. Yesterday, I heard it. Yesterday.
it's amazing. It's interesting because I have seen. I think Google has said we do not use latent semantic indexing in the core algorithm. I'm pretty sure they've outright said that, and they don't say that about many things. They're quite careful about what they say in the core algorithm. They try not to say very much. You'll notice that John Mueller and Google Gary really don't talk about the core algorithm very much. And I heard the other day. I think Martin was on with me, and he said that they're not supposed to know. They don't. The core engineers now don't tell them about the internal workings of the system, so they can't leak it out to the likes of us, which is a bit of a pity, really. So we all have to go and rely on the Google developer. Pages.
I think the danger man in that coup is Gary Alves, because he's in Mountain View, so he has a big advantage over the other ones in Zurich, because he can go.
Google. No, he's in Switzerland, I think.
No,
Danny Sullivan's in Mountain View.
Are you sure Gary is not in Mountain View? I think he is.
He was definitely in Switzerland when I went there in November 2019. But maybe he was there just for the day. But no.
But anyway,
do you know Gary speaks 10 languages, by the way?
Yeah.
At least.
He's the I call him the danger man, because you can't read him. He's a bit of a troll in the whole thing.
Yeah.
But we should do a video about if. Well, it's not a conspiracy, so maybe we'll talk else.
I'll tell you an algorithm that Google has used, because I've seen a Peter Norvig talk about it. So Peter Norvig, director of research at Google, but I don't think they use it in the core algorithm. But I do think they use it in the user query suggestion tool. But they do use it in the core algorithm as well. They use n-grams. So basically, they right near the start, go through and count which words are close to each other. So they've read millions and millions of textbooks, and the fact that the words search and engine are close to each other, they then connect those two words together, and they count the number of times on the web that the words search and engine are next to each other, and then search and engine and optimization are next to each other, and search and engine and optimization spelt with an S instead of a Z are next to each other. And so they're keeping scores of all those. So that allows them to predict the next word that a person is going to type, and also they can use that to build synonyms and pictures and things. So they do use n-grams in their algorithms. So there's one to take away.
Well, n-grams is very much. I touched my USB cable. I should not have. It was working. Why?
So you can't get the producers these days, folks, and they can't get the production quality.
Anyway, but I can multitask. I can do everything at once. Yeah, right. N-grams, what's interesting is that in our teaching about semantics and how everything is in relation to what, and n-gram makes a lot of sense, because you have a string of entities and you can guess the next one, basically.
Yeah.
So that's
by lighting there.
That's an algorithm that I like. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's also simple. Mathematically, it's simple.
Yes.
So they can just carry on reading text and and adding numbers and stuff, and so it's a useful thing for them to do. But by reading text, so it doesn't show how many people necessarily are interested in a particular topic. It just shows how prolific the topic is on the internet. So its use is muted a little bit, I think. But anyway, yeah, I think they use that. So, yeah. How long have we been on here, by the way? Have we been through? Have we got any more algos we need to talk about?
Yes. We have a couple more. We're only 9 minutes in.
No, right. Okay. Sorry.
But maybe we can. You want to rush because the next topic you like it as well. Okay. I'm still frozen. Hold on. Let me fix this.
I think you're having a hard time on one, so apologies for this, folks. But we'll carry on cracking through. We might have to redo this one.
Well, you just see the beautiful Dixon. You don't need to
Well,
see.
you know, I've had a diet, by the way, but it's not really showing. But hopefully, if you look at episode 1 of SEO Conspiracies, I was fatter than I am now. But who knows?
Okay, let's just finish on your. I'll fix between.
I'll tell you something else about algo myths. I think there's a bit of a problem because we. I mean, some good SEOs spend a lot of time looking at two things. You know, at one end, Bill Slawski looks at patents, and at the other end, you know, Dawn is looking at research papers and stuff, and Dawn Anderson. And I think both of them are really interesting, the angles that they come at. But one of them is looking at data which is generally way behind the curve. If a patent has been awarded, it's come out, and there is no guarantee that that Google are using it in any particular algorithm, and it may not be in the search algorithm. It might be in their image algorithms, or maybe in all sorts of other bits and pieces. And the same goes for the research papers at the start. When a Googler is involved in a research paper at the start, that is interesting because that means that somebody in Google is actively looking at a particular subject. But that's not to say that the idea will make it into production at the end of the research. So unless Google outwardly comes out and says we are using this maths, then it's, you know, we're all playing guesswork a little bit in the core algorithm. But I think that that in the research and in the patents, we should be wary in that it may not be research related to the core search engine algorithm. Google's or Alphabet now has so many different businesses and so many figures and so many pies that for all we know, it could be about compression rates on fiber lines and nothing to do with download speed of your website. You know, so research could go all over the place, and I guess that's where we start to get paranoid as SEOs. As soon as we see any sniff of any idea, we use proximity bias and assume that it's part of an algorithm somewhere in our world, and there's no evidence necessarily to say that's true at all.
Because we want it to be true. We want it to make sense. We want it to be like that. So
we want to be one-eyed in the world of the blind. One-eyed man is king kind of mentality. You know, if we're one step ahead of everyone else, then surely we could get the #1 spot for our favorite, you know, headline, you know, keyword, hero keyword.
Exactly. The fact that no matter what's very important when you said is that. Because they're just building layers upon layers upon layers of algorithms, and I don't know how many billions lines of codes and different languages and all this stuff. So, does someone even have a view of the whole thing? Is it even possible?
Well, for my money, Paul Haar, I think I've said it in a different video, but there's a guy called Paul Haar who's deep in the engineering. Doesn't come out very often, but I've seen him live once or twice, and I think he pretty much knows the whole thing. But I don't think very many people do. Because there are lots and lots of different algorithms that are working in different locations. I mean, they've got one algorithm specifically for the NFL, I've been told. You know, so you know, so NFL's results are all completely different to everybody else's. You know, but that's important to a particular demographic. So they potentially have different algorithms that are operating at times on sites that are in different kind of categories, and I think that suggests that they've got some level of categorization of content, and so I think that's an interesting idea. Certainly at Inlinks, we've spent a lot of time categorizing content. We use NLP to understand topics within categories, and that helps actually, because if you're trying to find out what topics you're missing, if you then filter those topics that you might be missing by category, all of a sudden you get a much better view of what you need to help rank, because you see the topics within your vertical.
Yes.
You know, whereas, you know, some of your competitors might have slightly different business models, and the needs met sort of equation is a little bit different. So, you know.
Let's finish on reverse it on an algorithm that we didn't know about because it wasn't on. We only had the regular PageRank. But then suddenly the topic sensitive PageRank appeared, and I was like, wow, this is groundbreaking. For a lot of us, it was groundbreaking.
Well, topical PageRank was something that kind of leaked out of the Googleplex really. It's sort of around towards the end of Matt Cutz's time, I think we kind of got there, which fell very nicely for Majestic because they were doing topical Trustware as well. And whether I think that's a very, very interesting and powerful mechanism. At least it is. The way that Majestic does it is very powerful. I suspect that Google has a much better kind of starting point than Majestic and can be much stronger at it. And I think as well, I think if you know that page A is about topic A and page B is about topic B, then the way that the links then go from those, there's more to the links than just power. There's also context, and that takes links to a whole new level. If you've got a probability that this is this much about this subject versus this much about this subject, then you can carry a lot more meaning or a lot more probability through those links as well. So I think the topical PageRank and the reasonable surfer modeling, it's that's something that people don't talk about enough. Reasonable surfer, the fact that a link right in front of the user's nose is more likely to be clicked on than one down in a bottom right hand corner that's not associated to any sentence. I think is an interesting thing that we don't do enough research on as SEOs.
You named the two most important algorithms any SEO must know. Topical PageRank and Reasonable Surfer.
But the interesting thing about Reasonable Surfer is that once you understand the concept, it becomes obvious, but it doesn't become obvious immediately as to which links are likely to algorithmically be better than others until someone does some proper testing and stuff. Because my intuition says a link in the body of a text should be a more likely an interruptive kind of link, and a user, when they click on that, is really trying to find new information, whereas a navigational link is probably taking somebody away from the information to a different sort of information. So there's a different thing going on. Exactly. But the navigational link may well be a much more popular link than the one in the body text. So even though I know the principles of Reasonable Surfer, I don't know how they're being applied within Google's algorithm necessarily. And unless somebody's got some really good evidence that Google has shared, I just have to assume that a link in the body of a text is going to be really powerful because when people do click on it, there's a huge meaning behind that.
If you want to go a little bit high level before we close it, you can train the Reasonable Surfer. For example, you do one outbound link to one website, which links to another one, and then comes back to you. If it's done well, if you could assume that the Reasonable Surfer will come back to you more often if it's done properly. If you have a path, if you know what I'm saying, like if you're able to kind of take Googlebot and then make him go around a couple of pages and come back to you.
That might tie in quite nicely to the next topic of click-through rates and pogo sticking, which is slightly different. But if somebody goes to somebody else's website and comes straight back again, is that a good signal or a bad signal? Maybe we should talk about that on the next session.
Which rebound are we talking about? The one you have
let's do both. Let's do both.
Bounce rate in analytics. What's the deal?
let's talk about bounce rates. Do they affect the core algorithm? And are we talking about bounce rates in the SERPs or bounce rates in Google Analytics? Let's have a look. Let's discuss what's happening.
Let me fix my camera, and we'll be back next week.
All right.
Thank you.
Cheers, Laurent.
Bye-bye.